Howdy all, this is Shane and we're looking at the VOX AC-15. Now this little amp, believe it or not, is one of the best things that I've ever purchased. Not only does it sound great, it absolutely has its own sound, it's built incredibly well, and it's just the easiest amp that I've had to get a good sound out of without really even trying. You can leave all the bass and treble on 12 and just turn it up and it sounds great. I have noticed a few people said they've had trouble getting a good sound out of these. I play a Stratocaster and a Telecaster, and the Tele in particular, it's like the easiest guitar ever to get a good sound out of this amp with. It's really easy. I'm gonna give you a rundown of what it's about. Alright, starting from left to right, over here we've got our on-off and standby control, and then we have our master volume, which is on the left here. This is the overall output of the amplifier. So at the moment it's down, you can go all the way to here and anywhere in between. Tone cut. Okay, now this off means it's allowing all the treble of your guitar to come through. If you roll this up, it actually starts to wind out some of the tops. So you can leave it full-fledged Vox sounding, or you can wind it up and make it sound more like a Fender, which has a less sort of cutting top end, so it's pretty cool. You've got your tremolo here, which is a built-in effect. It's sort of like a wavy effect. It's really nice, and it sounds better than any of my tremolo pedals I've actually owned. We have a beautiful spring reverb built into these amps as well, which is right here. The way that a Vox amp is voiced, it doesn't have a lot of mids, has more of a low and top end kind of vibe, and it really works well with Telecasters or even humbuckers. It sounds great, even with Strats too. I usually leave the EQ about here for all the people that want to know where I have it set. It's kind of like that. Then you have a volume for the top boost channel, which is basically the channel that uses the EQ in conjunction with the master on the other side. And we have a normal volume. Now this bypasses the EQ. So if you're plugged into the normal, you're using this volume control and bypassing everything else. And if you're using the top boost input, you're using the EQ section. That's my favorite one. Alright, this is the back of the amp here, and if we zoom in, hopefully we can see the inside. You have some EL84 tubes alongside some 12AX7s on the right, which are the larger ones. And if you're wondering, a Fender amp usually has 6V or 6L6 tubes. Alright, over here on the left we have two outputs. The one on the left will go to an external speaker, and what that will do is cut the internal speaker off, and you can use like a different speaker box altogether, but it does bypass the internal speaker. Second one, the extension speaker, will run the internal speaker as well as an extension box, and you do have a selector here which controls the impedance. So if you're just running an external box, you can leave it where it is if the speaker is rated at the same ohms, or if it's an 8 ohm you can simply just flick it across, or if you're running two 16 ohm speakers you can run it on 8 ohms as well. It's kind of confusing, but there's plenty on the net about that. Over here we have our external foot switch, which means you can use the tremolo and also the reverb. You can switch them on and off, it's really cool. And the kettle lead plug. Now this is the front of the amp. It has the 60s style Vox cloth that looks pretty retro and cool. It has the big Vox logo here, which is just like plastic logo, but I haven't had any problems with it. It hasn't fallen off. So these are made in China, but they're made really well. I haven't had any issues with Vox stuff yet. And the speaker that's in here is a 12-inch 25 watt Celestion Greenback. I actually replaced it with a UK made Celestion, and I put the original back in because the original was louder, had better chime, and yeah, it really suits the electronics that are in here. So if you're after a bit of a different vibe, something that's great for recording and something that you can use live at low volume gigs, or if you're mic'd up at a gig, this is the amp. Like 15 watts is usually loud enough for a small gig, depending on what kind of music you play, but this is a great great amplifier, and I'm actually going to use it again at my next gig mic'd up when we play our small amps, which I'm looking forward to. So yeah, it's light enough that it's not that big of a problem to get around. The only thing is it doesn't come with a foot switch and it doesn't come with a cover, so I had to buy the foot switch, which is cool because I've actually got an AC-30 as well and it works with that, no problems. So yeah, I could highly recommend the VOX AC-15. It's just a great amp at a decent price, I reckon. Can't go wrong. If you want to hear more, go to my channel. It's called In the Blues, and I've got about 600 videos, and I've got about maybe 10, 15 videos about this amp, or live tests of this amp on my channel, so check it out. Thanks guys.